Christina, thank you very much for joining us. Tell us more about what happened there. Do you think it was a clear red card, Katie McCabe pulling Alyssa Thompson's hair? And was Bonpastor's reaction worthy?
So from that first camera angle that I saw when we were watching the live game coverage, it looked like it was a full-on hair pull. Beyond that, from the outside, we go zero in. Everything about this is saying it is a full-on hair pull right there. Yes. Clear. Yeah, you hear that expression, right? Because we didn't even see that as clearly in the first. And here it's very, very clear. It's a hair pull. This is what we call a clear and obvious error. Must be a red card to send down for the hair pull, not for Sonia, right? Because that obviously aggregates it. And I know Allie and I were talking offline about, hair pull incidents. Primarily, obviously, happened in the women's game, does still happen in the men's game too. But once there's a hair pull, the automatic place a referee should start at is red card. And then there's some situations on a hair pull that you can de-escalate it down to a yellow card. That's if it was very brief, it might have been on the shoulder, right? There's some other considerations, but a hair pull in football is automatically a red card for the most part. That's where you start. Where typically in sporting movements, we say yellow card, now can it be accelerated to red card? A hair pull is probably the opposite. Red card, and then see if there's considerations to bring it down to a yellow card. So very, very shocked. I know we were kind of talking about, I'm pretty darn sure, I'm confident that there's VAR searching in case there was some technical error or technical glitch or some issue going on with VAR that didn't recommend it. We don't see anything about that. So it sounds like VAR was live and well and still fine. And yeah, from a refereeing standpoint, these are gutted for the community because yes, you had last week, right? Now you have Sonia, who's going to go and justifiably so say, once again, the refereeing expectations and performance as some of these critical games. And we're not just talking about, obviously, this is the performance on the field, but you're also talking about the revenue incentive that comes from being able to advance into. And I really like, Janelle, the words that you were saying about that last 15 minutes from a refereeing angle and perspective. The first 15 minutes and the last 15 minutes are some of the most critical moments for an official. And that distinguishes good referees from great referees, those who don't know how to calm down the game and not let it get into their minds.
Christina, will they look at, that incident now after the game is over? Will they look at Sonia Bonpastor's red card and maybe go back on their decision? Is that possible?
It's possible. I mean, I always say everything's possible, right? Because it's league and they can find some type of an exception to the rule through some type of a clause that allows them to do so. Don't see it happen very, very often, right? Because what the red card to Sonia is on her actions at that moment. So are those actions to validate the yellow and the red card to kick her out was probably the answer. Yes. Obviously, there's things there that, excited her, incited her is the better word to use for that. But yeah, it's going to be a rough day for UEFA to find, which hopefully they don't defend the decision, but at the end of the day, yes, we messed up. And it doesn't help anyone to say, development and education. So this, I think, is just a little bit of a shot across the bow that is very unfortunate for the teams and for viewers.
Yeah, it's quite a shame, especially because last week we heard Sonia Bonpastor speaking to Anita, and she was saying how the refereeing was last week. She was not impressed with it. So I can't imagine this week she's impressed with it either.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the gray areas and the subjective analysis, we're always going to go back and forth, right? Was that yellow? Was that red? Maybe, maybe not. But when it comes to, and the whole point of VAR and the millions and billions of dollars that have been invested in it and why it won't go away, even though a lot of people want it to go away, is for these clear and obvious errors. So when these are missed, it really just undermines the whole system.
Christina, I have two questions. One, was Bonpastor's second yellow because she steps on the field, not necessarily because of what she was saying? And second question, was in a situation like that, why didn't the fourth referee or the sideline ref step in? And how do you, I think at that moment, I think it comes down to not just interpreting or understanding the rules, but having the courage to make such a game-changing decision.
Yeah, I think you're hitting the first. So the first incident on Sonia for the second yellow, not entirely too sure. Yes, typically when you step onto the field, that is a yellow card. But, who knows? I don't blame her necessarily what could be coming out of her mouth at the same time, right? We talk about demonstrative behavior, right? That is in disrepute. So there's probably multiple reasons, probably in that whole combination, something in there was justifiable for a yellow card at that moment, right? Not, once again, saying we can't fault her for being angry. But that second portion of it, and I think That's really, really the talking point from an officiating standpoint, right? So yes, you're the center referee, but you're not the only one out there. There is 4 individuals on the field. And I always said, like, I walked out, it was me and my team, you know, we were going into war. It was 4 of us versus 22 players, technical staff, the benches, and the entire stadium, including TV, against us, right? Just innately, everyone's against us. And you have to have that relationship and that courage to have that ability to say, hey, the center referee, because things can get chaotic. You saw those last 5 minutes. It was here, bang, 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 speed, 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 pressure, 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 and your heart's racing for your team in the comms to be like, hey, take a deep breath, or pause, pause, pause. There's something that's going on, right? So if it's not the players who are giving that center referee who could be, you know, basically, for lack of a better term, spinning in her mind, you, as a, you know, seasoned and professional, once again, the difference between good and great from an officiating standpoint and from your support staff is you see the assistant referee is looking to second to last defender. She doesn't see it, justifiably so. Now you're talking about your 4th official. What are they dealing? We can't see right now whether they're dealing with technical, like, you know, chippering her in their ears. But at the end of the day, when you see such a spike of energy, especially from the technical bench area and everyone combined, now with video, you can use that to your support to say, slow the game down. Give VAR a second to take a look at it. This is what they're saying. Can you see if that's validated? And that all comes from the 4 referees on the field.
Let's say there is an acknowledgement that this was an error. What are the possible consequences for Katie McCabe and for the referee and the VAR?
Yeah, so starting with the player, and the league is entitled to do so, right? After the fact, if they find that something could be right with the red card, is effectively, it's not serious foul play. That's where you have an opportunity or chance to play the ball. Here, ball's gone, right? So it turns into a violent conduct situation that can be retroactively from the league sanctioned for that. So that could be potentially a game being sat out. But that, once again, that goes into committees and all of that stuff that's outside of the referee's decision and falls into the league. So potentially Katie could find herself sanctioned for 1 game because of the violent conduct actions of it. It's not necessarily playing the ball. For the officials, sorry, it just gave me like chills, because you know that going into that locker room, the feeling of when you miss, not just an error that can go back and forth, but something that can affect your career and your decision. As an official, you're only as good as your last game. It doesn't matter your work portfolio. You can ask Simon Marciniak of the World Cup, right? Incredible World Cup for the Men's World Cup, has a horrible UEFA, you know, Champions League, right? And no one remembers that. They only remember your last game. So here, this does impact significantly the potential for future assignments, to be kicked out of the elite league. Like, there are significant ramifications for us as referees when you make such a game critical decision. That, you know, you hope, and there's rehab and redevelopment and training and instruction. But when it's so public and it's on such a big game, it takes a lot to get refound sense of, you know, your managers and your signers to have confidence to sign you to another big game. So I've seen some officials, unfortunately, when things happen at World Cups, who make major critical decisions, never referee again because they're just not assigned again.
Yeah, we did see that crazy hair pull from Katie McCabe on Alyssa Thompson in the last 2 minutes of the game, but we also saw a red card for Chelsea head coach Sonia Bonpastor, and she was able to catch up with Anita after the game.
Emotional ending to the game. We've obviously had a few moments since then. How do you reflect on the game as a whole and those final 10 minutes or so?
Yeah, disappointed about the result and the fact we couldn't qualify for the semi-final. It was one of the big objectives in our season, so it's really frustrating. And it's difficult to say that, but I think overall in both games, I think I'm really proud of the players. I think they put a really great performance, but at this level, we need to understand, we need to be clinical when we create the chances. And I think we had enough chances to win the game tonight, to just bounce back from last week. And that's the reality. We couldn't score more than 1. And I think, if we speak about the last 10 minutes, of course it's emotional because you want to win the game. You want to try as much as you can to, just go back in the game and try to qualify. And I was really upset. I'm better now, but because, again, one more time, I had one of my players, Alyssa Thompson, who was pulled, her hair was pulled. And I don't understand why the VAR cannot check that. And it was clear. I brought the video with me, and I have the video. It's really frustrating because I don't want to be like, but if you look at the video, it's clear. So I'm trying to... And I think, like, at this level, I am the one who ends the game with a red card, where McCabe should be the player who just don't stay on the pitch. And I think that's clear. So I think if, like, at this level, you don't see that with the VAR. I'm not talking about the referee. And, people can smile, but it's really difficult at this level to just take both games and see all these controversial decisions. And again, at the end of the day, well done Arsenal, but I think like the refereeing is not good enough, and I think that's not normal.
You did express your frustration to the referee when I think she only just blew the whistle. What did you say to her, and what was her response?
I just said, like, can you please check the VAR, because the player pulled my player hair, and she's not listening, as always. I think they don't listen, and how come we control that? I think she needs at least to ask the VAR. The VAR needs to call her to say, this is clearly like she got pulled her hair. And I think, but again, you can complain, you can say even after the game, I'm talking about it, but nothing will change. And the reality is, like, we are not qualified. I think overall, obviously, we didn't score enough goals to qualify, and that's the reality. But that's really frustrating. I just want to mention also, like, I think the referee who was refereeing the game was the one who 2 years ago for Chelsea, she disallowed a goal for them, offside, and it was onside, and also a referee who gave a PK to Real Madrid, and it was a fault outside the box. And the one who was on the VAR was the one who just disallowed our goal against Barcelona when Kat scored her header. And I think when you look at that, you can question the decision on why are these referees again refereeing games like that. I think it's not good enough.